Hello everyone. Welcome to the introductory lecture of ICAS. Myself, Dr. Philomena Fernandes from Modern College of Arts, Science and Commerce. Greetings to everyone. Trade and commerce, how the trade evolved over the period of time. Now let's come to the first topic of ancient trade and commerce, that is inception of trade in ancient India. So what is trade? Trade is nothing but an acquisition, distribution and exchange of goods. Trade had a great impact on the growth and prosperity of a nation. And India has been blessed with the physical environment, having Himalayas in the north, bordered by the water in the south. Coming to the beginning of barter system, trade was carried on initially with the exchange of goods and services between two or more parties. In the beginning of human civilization, barter probably might have arose from prehistoric times. During the Indus Valley civilization, when trade was highly flourishing condition, the ordinary medium of exchange was barter. The Yajurveda records an instance of mutual exchange of commodities of equal value. During early Vedic period, cows were also regarded as a unit of value. There are references made in Rig Veda where a sage is offering an image of Indra in exchange of 10 cows. During the days of Patanjali, barter was a common mode of transaction. People always produced surplus so that they could be traded to their neighbor. So this gave rise to barter system. Bartering is nothing but exchange of goods and services between two or more parties. In the beginning of human civilization, barter probably arose from prehistoric times when man first acquired the knowledge to manufacture stone implements. Moving on from barter to coinage. The first documented coinage is deemed to start with Panchmak coins issued between 7th to 6th century BC and 1st century AD. These coins are called Panchmak coins because of their manufacturing techniques. The coins were made of silver and had images punched over them. During the early Vedic age, coin used by them was known as Nishka. Rigveda contains references of gifts being made in horses and nishkas. However, nothing definite can be said about coins because no coin has been discovered so far. According to Buddhism period, which ranged from 650 BC to 321 BC, coins struck in copper and silver known as karshapanas were in general use. Gold, silver, copper and lead coins were used during Mauryan period. Chanakya, the first Mauryan emperor's prime minister, detailed the minting of coins such as Rupaya Rupa, Suvarna Rupa, Tamara Rupa. Then during the Harappan civilization, there was introduction of standard weights and measures. Exchanges were regulated by a precise system of weights, usually made of a stone called sturt, and generally cubicles with no markings. The lower denomination of weights were binary, while the higher denominations followed the decimal system. The recorded history shows ample evidence that the different parts of the human body were used as a point of reference while making measurement. These were digit, the width of a single finger; foot, the length of a foot; cubit included the length of an arm; hand span, the distance between the tip of the thumb and the tip of the little finger when the hand is fully stretched out. Now, similarly, fathom meant the distance between the ends of the hands of an Anglo-Saxon farmer when his arms were fully stretched out. So we see, students, that human body, like the hands, the foot, the stretched arms, all were used as a unit of measurement. Around 2400 years ago, during Chandragupta Mauryan period, There was a well-defined system of weights and measures. According to this system, the smallest unit of length was one paramanu. Small lengths were measured in angles. For long distance, yojan was used. One yojan was equal to 10 kilometers. The grain was used also as a unit of mass in 16th century and was equal to the weight of a wheat grain due to their approximate standard size. So in the medieval period, the measurement system was in practice and it has kept on changing over the period of time. Now, students, we are in the 21st century and we follow a standard unit of measurement. We have a proper central bank which prescribes a unit of measurements. We follow the minimum reserve system and we have overcome the various defects of barter system. I hope you have understood this lecture. In brief, more questions will be given in the subsequent lectures. Thank you for listening. Hello everyone, myself Dr. Philomena Fernandes, back once again with the fourth chapter of the ancient trade and commerce in India. In this topic, we would be studying about the various route that was adopted while going in for foreign trade. So we have the land routes and the maritime route. Now coming to the land route, we have the Silk Route. The Silk Route was a major trade route in the first millennium BC, which connected Asia, Europe, and Africa. It was an important channel for India's trade. Silk Route covered 7 states of India, which passed through Bihar, Jammu and Kashmir, Maharashtra, Puducherry, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, and Uttar Pradesh. This route is supposed to be around 1500 years. The Silk Road was a network of ancient trade routes that connected India, China, and Central Asia and Mediterranean for almost 1400 years. Silk Route was not just a route for exchanging goods, it was a vehicle for the exchange of ideas, religions, culture, art, and technology. Merchants traded goods such as silk, spices, tea, ivory, cotton, wool, and precious metals at bazaars along the way. Trade created employment opportunities, grazing grounds, cultivation of crops, and shelters near hot springs. In this map, we see the pathway of the Silk Route starting from China, passing through China, Tibet, India, and passing till Middle East. Then we have the Grand Trunk Road. This ancient road stretched from Chittagong in Bangladesh to Kabul in Afghanistan, passing through major cities in North India like Delhi and Lahore. Then we have the Spice Route, which was also known as Southern Sea Route. This maritime route connected India with the Roman Empire and other regions of the Mediterranean. Spices like pepper, cinnamon, and cardamom were the main commodities traded along this route. We also have Indo-Roman trade route, which connected India with the Roman Empire. These trade routes played a crucial role in the economic and cultural exchanges between ancient India and other regions, contributing to the prosperity of the nations. Coming to the inter-regional connectivity, India had a vast network of roads and ports connecting markets and towns with one another and served as a channel of trade and commerce. The overland connections among different regions, indicated by the itinerary of the Chinese pilgrim Yun San, who came to India in 7th century from across the Hindu Kush and visited various towns and capitals from Kashmir in north to Kanchi in south and from Assam in east to Sindh in west. The route from Kannauj passed through Prayaga and went eastward up to the port of Tampralipti, from where it went along the east coast to Kanchi in south towards the northeast. The northwestern route was the chief channel of commercial interconnection between India and Central Asia in the pre-Gupta centuries. But in the early medieval period, it was largely under the control of Arab and Turkish traders who also used this to bring horses from Persia. There were other regions, routes starting from Bayana in Rajasthan, passing through the desert of Mawar, and reached the modern port of Karachi in Sindh. A branch of this route passed through Abu in the western foot of the Aravalli Hills and connected ports and towns of Gujarat with Bayana, Mathura and other places in north and northwestern India. Another route from Mathura and Prayaga proceeded to the port of Broach on the western coast of Ujjain. So these were some of the routes which were used for the trade, international trade as well as internal trade. Rivers also played a very important role in trade. It is a well-known fact that the main civilizations which flourished in ancient times, like the Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, Indus Valley civilization, and Chinese civilization, were all possible because of the ecologically speaking, North India was the ideal place in the world for the development of riverine civilization via agriculture, bounded by the Himalayas in the north and lower mountains on the west, east, and south. Not surprisingly, the Rig Veda, the oldest book of the region, is full of praise of the numerous rivers of the regions, the foremost of which in early ancient time was the Saraswati, which flowed east of the Yamuna to run of Kutch, creating an unbroken set of fertile rivers from Punjab to Bengal. Rivers were used for trade, travel, and communication. Since time immemorial, people from different countries from the world have been using waterways for trade and travel. The Egyptians, Romans, Greeks, French, British, and Portuguese also came to India using the sea route. Water transport in India had reached its zenith in 14th century. The Mughal rulers greatly developed navigation on rivers for trade and passengers. Megustin is mentioned in the accounts of his travels that he sailed on an Indian boat. According to his accounts, the Ganga and its 17 tributaries and the Indus with its 13 tributaries were navigable and were extensively used for transportation. However, coming to decline of water transport, after a glorious tradition of thousands of years of Indian shipping, it started to diminish in 18th century with the introduction of railways and road transport. What was unique was its gradual decline due to the stiff competition from railways after 1860. Ancient India had deep trading connections in countries like Cambodia, Java, Sumatra, Borneo, and countries as far as Japan. The transport and communication with these trade centers were mainly through waterways. However, with the advent of British rule, the Indian shipping industry came under brutal competition from the British ships. And it was the sheer discriminatory and unjust practices of the British government that caused the Indian shipping transport to languish. A near monopoly in port to port traffic in India was established by the British shipping companies that remained the major carriers of Indian cargo during the entire British rule. So, this is how students, the Indian shipping saw its death during the British era. Nevertheless, India did have a glorious years of shipping in the past, which we still cherished in today's days. So thanks for listening and have a nice time.
Hello students. Myself, Dr. Ashwini Joshi, welcomes you all in the journey of IKS, that is Indian Knowledge System. In this fifth unit, we are going to discuss about 6 subtopics. Our topic heading is Rise of Trade Centers and Urbanization. And subtopics are Establishment of Major Trade Centers, Influence of Trade on Urbanization, Infrastructure in Trade Center, Role of Trade Centers in Cultural Exchange, Art and Architecture in Trade Centers, decay and migration of trade centers. As I said, we are going to discuss about the concept of trade, its impact on urbanization, existence of trade centers during ancient time, major items of exports and imports, position of India in world economy during ancient time, infrastructure available at the trade centers, role of trade in cultural exchange, ancient Indian art and architecture, and over the period of time, decay and migration of trade centers. As we know, economic and commercial evolution of any land depends upon its physical environment. It means on the availability of natural resources. During ancient time, India was gifted with abundance of natural resources, and as such, India has evolved as a major actor in the economic world in ancient times. The most important commercial centers in ancient time were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which were found in the 3rd millennium BC. There were diverse types of coins and weighing practices which were followed at different places. The major trade centers developed during ancient period were Patliputra, which was very famous for exporting stones, Peshawar, which was for exporting wool and importing horses, Taxila, which was a major trade center in land route between India and Central Asia. It was also a city of financial and commercial banks. Indraprastha commercial junction. It was a commercial junction where routes from all the sides, north, west, east, south, were convergent. Mathura, which was emporium of trade. Varanasi, place of textile industry and famous for beautiful gold silk cloth. Ujjain, which was very famous for muslin cloth. Surat for its textile with gold zari border. Kanchi for pearls. Even Mathura, Brown, Kaveri Patta, and Tamralipatti all were very famous trade centers during the ancient Indian period, you can say. Due to all such trade developments, India was the largest economy of the ancient and medieval world, occupying about 1/3 wealth of the nation. Hence, India was referred to as Swarna Bhumi and Swarna Deep, that is gold country, you can say. Now, let's see what is the impact of this trade glory of India on its urbanization. Urbanization means what? In simple terms, we can define it as, which is opposite to rural. Means what? It means increased concentration of people and functions of cities covering cultural, commercial, industrial, administrative, and residential activities. The Indian subcontinent shares with Mesopotamia and Nile Valley has a long history of urbanization. The first place of urbanization is associated with Indus Valley, and second urbanization was in the 6th century BC. This was the age of Mohenjo-daros. As trade and commerce began to expand, the areas that lay along the major travel routes or near rivers or fertile land began to develop in urban centers. Thus, trade has a major impact on urbanization. This impact of trade on urbanization can be explained as increased economic status, then development of different trade routes, development of textile centers, artisans' activity, and non-agricultural occupation. The next part of this particular topic is infrastructure in trade centers. Many infrastructural facilities were available in the trade centers during the ancient period. It covers architectural structures such as rock-cut caves, pillars, stupas, palaces, etc. Even the mail service was available during ancient India, and that sometimes used common chariots called the Gana. Even the medical facilities were available through the veterinary hospitals and dispensaries under the Mauryan Empire. The Iron Pillar of Delhi was very famous. Various dams and bridges have been constructed during that period. The glass was used for making ornaments and for casing in the region by the beginning of the Common Era. Even the spinning wheel were available. So all these helped in the development of trade centers, which we have already discussed earlier. The next part of this topic is the role of trade centers.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the second lecture of Trade and Commerce in Ancient India. In the second chapter, we would be discussing about the guilds, the origin of guilds, the guild system in ancient India, their functions, and the administration. So, what are guilds? Guilds were called as shrenis. It is an organization of craft producers and merchants. Ancient literature shows that Indians were experts in producing goods, and there existed a merchant class. So, following the same occupations and crafts and residing at one place, cooperating with each other, are organized into guilds. These guilds probably procured raw materials, regulated production, and marketed the finished product. Now, coming to the origin of guilds, the Harappan civilization shows that India had fairly developed art and crafts, trade and commerce, but however, we lack some evidence. Our knowledge of the existence of guild organization of that period remains nebulous. Scholars are divided on the issue of whether guild system was in existence in Vedic period. In 4th century BC, provides the emergence and existence of many guilds through coins, inscriptions, and literary texts. The Jataka tales refer to 18 guilds, to their heads, to localization of industry, and to the hereditary nature of profession. The state seems to have come to exercise some control over guilds by appointing an official Bandagarika with judgeship over all guilds. The Mauryan Empire also witnessed the growth of guilds as the state had participated in agriculture and industrial production. But with the decline of Mauryan Empire, it led to the political disintegration and laxity in state control over guilds, allowing them better chances to grow. The guild system lost their grounds in the early medieval India. Coming to the role of guilds in ancient India, the guilds were primarily formed to protect the interests of their members, promote their economic well-being, and regulate their trade practices. They also facilitate the exchange of knowledge and skills among different communities. The guilds were instrumental in promoting trade and commerce by providing a platform for merchants and traders to come together and negotiate deals. Guilds in ancient India were an important institution that contributed significantly to the economic, social, and cultural development of the country. Coming to the function of guilds in ancient India, protection of interest among the members. Now, the guilds were formed to protect the interests of their members. They provided legal, social, and economic protection to their members. Guilds also promoted the economic well being by ensuring fair trade practices and facilitating trade and commerce. Thirdly, guilds helped in regulating profession. Guilds had made rules and regulations for their profession and enforced them through their own codes. This ensured that their members maintained high standard of workmanship and quality. Social welfare was another thing to be added in the chart. The guilds also provided social welfare to the members by providing education, healthcare, and support during difficult times. Cultural activities. Many guilds participated in religious and cultural activities and donated generously to support these activities. Coming to the administration of markets in ancient India, there was market regulation. The guilds regulated the activities of traders and merchants in the markets, ensuring fair competition and preventing unfair trade practices such as price fixing, hoarding, and deceitful trade practices. Dispute resolution. The guilds had their own courts to settle disputes between traders and merchants in the markets. Thirdly, price control. The guilds played a role in controlling prices of goods in the markets. They did this by setting price ceilings and floors for certain goods, especially essential commodities, to prevent price gouging. Quality control. The guilds also enforced strict quality control standards for goods sold in the markets, ensuring that they met certain minimum quality requirements. Fifthly, market infrastructure. The guilds also played a role in developing and maintaining the infrastructure of the markets. This included providing facilities such as storage, transportation, and marketing services to traders and merchants. Lastly, was the tax collection. The guilds collected taxes from traders and merchants in the markets, which were then used to finance the administration and maintenance of the markets. Overall, the guilds played a crucial role in administering the markets of ancient India. They ensured fair competition, resolved disputes, controlled prices and quality, and provided essential infrastructure and services to traders and merchants. The guild's administration of the markets contributed to the growth and development of trade and commerce in ancient India. I hope you might have understood what has been written on the slides. For more reference, you can refer these links, students, which are given down, and the notes would be circulated for the same. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Professor Sneha Mirajkar. Here today, I am here to discuss about international trade with West Asia and Europe, which is the eighth topic of the subject Generic IKS Indian Knowledge System. So in this particular topic, there are 6 subtopics, that is India's trade with Persia, trade relations with Roman Empire, exchange of goods, cultural exchange and influence, political implications of trade, decline of trade with West Asia and Europe. So we are going to start with the first topic, that is India's trade with Persia. Persian invasion is traced back to 550 BCE when Cyrus invaded the northwest front of India. Greek invasion is traced back to 327 BC when Alexander invaded northwest in India. Now we will see the Persian invasion of India. There are few very important points that we are going to discuss today. The Cyrus is the founder of Achaemenid Empire in ancient Iran, invaded the northwestern front of India in 550 BCE. At that time, there were many small provinces like Gandhara, Kamboja, and Madra who were constantly fighting one another. At that time, Bimbisara of the Haryana dynasty was ruling over Magadha. Cyrus succeeded in bringing under Persian control all the Indian tribes west of the Indus like Gandhara. Punjab and Sindh were annexed by Darius I, Cyrus's grandson. Son of Darius, that is Xerxes, could not move ahead with the further conquest of India because of war with Greeks. He had employed Indian cavalry and infantry. Ancient India traded with Persia in a variety of goods, including cotton, indigo, and silk, then ivory and teak, which was exported by India to Persia, then sandalwood, magneta, shales, corals, pearls, gold, and silver. The trade between India and Persia also led to cultural exchange, with Indian philosophers, poets, scholars, and intellectuals traveling to Persia to spread Indian culture. Indian kings also adopted a similar type of artistic coin as a currency to the Persian silver coin. We will see now Darius I's invasion of India. So Darius I was the successor and grandson of Cyrus. He started the invasion of the northwest part of undivided India in 516 BC. The conquest of Darius I is mentioned in the Ahmdan, that is gold and silver inscription. Darius invaded India and won the Punjab and Sindh region. He also occupied some parts of the Jhelum River Valley. Gandhara is mentioned in the Behistun subscription as a region of Darius' empire, which he may have acquired from Cyrus. This is further supported by Darius' Susa palace inscription, which states that ticks were brought from Gandhara for the emperor's palace construction. Gandhara refers to Pakistan's contemporary cities of Peshawar and Rawalpindi. Darius I always invaded some parts of West Punjab during his time to the Persian Empire. Then Xerxes' invasion of India. Xerxes was the successor and son of Darius I. He kept the kingdoms of India under his empire, but did not expand the Persian kingdom any further into Indian mainland. He used large numbers of Indian troops, including cavalry and weapons, for the invasion of Greece. Now we will see the effect on India after the Persian invasion. The Indo-Iranian contact lasted for 200 years. It gave an impetus to the Indo-Iranian trade and commerce. Iranian coins are also found in the northwestern frontier, which points to the existence of trade with Iran. The Persian silver coin was beautifully designed, and Indian kings also adopted a similar type of artistic coin as a currency. The Indian or Persian form of sculpture making is visible in modern architecture. Probably the rock inscription used by Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE were inspired by the Persian king Darius. The monuments of Ashoka's time, especially the bell-shaped capitals and the preamble of Ashoka edicts, have a lot of Iranian influence. So these are some images of Iranian coins and Persian silver coins. Now we are going to the subtopic 2, which is trade relations with Roman Empire. The first documented relation between ancient India and ancient Rome occurred during the region of Augustus, which is 27 BCE, 14 CE. The Empire Roman Emperor. Trade between the Indian subcontinent and the Roman Empire in Europe and the Mediterranean Sea is known as Indo-Roman trade. The growth of the money economy aided trade, and the Kushanas and Satavahanas issuing of small denomination coins opened the door for the use of currencies for localized small-scale transactions. The Periplus Maris Air 3, a guide for the traders that includes detail on itineraries, harbors, navigation, and cargoes related to the ports of the Arabian Sea and their hinterlands. Pinley's Nature History, the Periplus of the Arthurian Sea, 1st century BC, 1st century AD, and the Ptolemy's Geography all provide in-depth discussion of trade. That is 2nd century AD. Now we are going to see some numismatics and Indo-Roman trade. The majority of the coin date to the reigns of the Emperor Augustus 31 BCE, 14 CE, and Tibullus 42 37 CE. And there are some evidences of such coins. Gold coins are known as ori and silver coins are called as dinar. Now, these particular coins were found in India in Tamil Nadu's Coimbatore region, Andhra Pradesh, Krishna Valley, and then Roman coins also founded in Sholapur, Vadodara, Vadgaon, Madhavpur, and Kondhapur. Here are some details about the trade between the two empires. So we are going to discuss first of all goods traded. So goods traded are ivory, pearls, gemstone, perfumes, and exotic animals like elephants and tigers. India's main export was paper, which was used in Roman cuisine. The Roman exported gold and Roman wine, which was popular in India. They have founded one trade route, which is maritime highway connected the two empires through the Red Sea, and hundreds of ships traveled between the two regions each year. Then there is an archaeological evidences related to coins, artifacts, and remains from around 130 sites. Then there is an end of trade between the Roman Empire and India, which was in the mid 7th century. Then we are going to the subtopic 3, that is cultural exchange and influence with West Asia and Europe. So first of all, we are going to discuss about Indo-Roman trade. So pottery is the major coinage between the two Indo-Roman trade. There are two forms of Roman pottery that have been discovered in India, are terra sigillata and amphorae jars. Then this is the Kharosthi script, which was brought by northwest India by the Persians, and there are some inscriptions of Ashoka were written in the Kharosthi script in these parts. Kharosthi script is derived from the Aramaic script and is written from right to left. Now there are some literary sources for Indo-Roman trade, which is Tamil. Basically, the literature appears in Tamil literature. So last ships from the Sangam are described as traveling on the Periyar Reef, bringing in gold and wine and departing with the load of black paper in Sangam poetry. In a poem from Pattu Pattu, the noise generated by Madurai's weavers is compared to the noise made by people loading and unloading cargo onto Yavana ships at midnight. In a poem by Nakirar, the Pandya king Nanamanar is described as sipping fragrant chili wine provided by the Yavanas. The Periplus Marius R3 lists the product that Indian ports on the Gujarat coast and the Indus Delta exported to the Roman Empire. The Roman gold flow into India is mentioned by Pinley and Duocrostum. Then we are going to this subtopic 5, which is political implications of trade. So we are going to discuss about the effect of Indo-Roman trade on society. The name Yavanas is used in Indian texts to describe people who are not just from the Red Sea, but also from the Gulf and Northwest. Yavanas' habitations in India were not comparable to the Roman townships that are common in the Mediterranean region and in Europe. In India, they typically reside in already existing settlement where, as in Arikemedu, some Yamana traders established a base to facilitate both the manufacture and the acquisition of goods required in the trade. Whereas others were centers of exchange that were undoubtedly visited by Yavana traders as well as by local traders, agents, and suppliers involved in this and other trade. Then we are going to the subtopic 6, which is decline of trade with West Asia and Europe. The decline of the Roman Empire. The trade declined in the mid 3rd century due to crisis in the Roman Empire. The fall of ports like Alexandria, which had been used to secure trade with the Indian subcontinent, also contributed to the decline. Then there is Islamic conquest of Egypt. The Arabs' conquest of Egypt in 639 or 640 CE marked the beginning of the decline in trade. The European monopoly, which is European trading groups adopted a policy of monopoly and exclusiveness to push Indian merchants out of the trade. The decline in the precious metals. There was a decline in the long distance trade led to scarcity of metal-grade currency in India. The decline in the skills of Indian artisans. The decline in trade and commerce in North India between the 7th and 10th centuries was also due to the decline in the skills of Indian artisans. Then we are going to discuss about the downfall of the Persian Empire. The Persian dominance in India declined due to Xerxes' defeat in Greece. However, the Achaemenid dynasty ruled India until 330 BC. Darius III, the last of the Achaemenid rulers, called on Indian soldiers to oppose Alexander the Great in that year. The Persian rulers that came after Darius III were not as strong and had no interest in further invading India. Thank you.
Good morning, student. Myself, Professor Manungade. Today we are going to learn ancient taxation system. First, we will learn concept and types of taxes. In Indus Valley civilization, means back to around 2500 BCE, the inhabitants likely engaged in some form of taxation, such as agriculture produce, crafts, and trade goods could have served as a potential sources of revenue to support public infrastructure and governance. In Vedic period, back to 1500 to 500 BCE, succeeded the decline of Indus Valley civilization. During this period, taxes were predominantly collected in form of agricultural produce and cattle. The Bali system, prevalent during this time, entailed the contribution of portion of harvest to sustain rulers, priests, and administrative functions. In Mauryan Empire, means around 322 to 185 BC, marked a significant phase in India's history, characterized by emergence of organized tax system. Under the rule of Emperor Chandragupta Maurya, land revenue emerged as a primary source of state income. Taxes were collected in both cash and kind, and the renowned Arthashastra attributed to Kautilya Chanakya offered comprehensive guidelines for taxation, administration, and governance. In Gupta Empire, means around 320 to 550 CE, further refined the taxation practices established during the Mauryan era. The ZEP system, introduced by Emperor Akbar, was a cornerstone of a taxation during this period. The taxes were levied on agricultural produce, providing a consistent source of revenue to the empire. Feudalism became a prominent with local rulers and landlords collecting taxes often in form of agriculture produce and other tributes from peasants. In Mughal Empire, which reigned over India for several centuries, introduced significant changes to taxation system. Emperor Akbar's ZEP system aimed to create a more equitable and predictable tax collection process. Now, we will learn the types of taxes in ancient India. In Mughal Empire, there are different types of taxes. First is a corporate tax, the corporation or guild of artisan and handicraft men. Second is indirect taxes. These are charged on liquor, slaughter of animals, trades, oils, ghee, sugar, the state goldsmith, weavers, ferries, boats, ships, and taxes on minerals and road sale. Land and properties tax. These are charged under on townhouses and building sites. Pasture grounds, agriculture produce, for flower gardens, and a large part of tax on agriculture was received in kind. Then next type is a custom duty. It is called as sulka, and sulka was collected on all imported goods at the city gates. Next type is income taxes. Income taxes are collected on means collected in form of produce from crown lands, portion of produce payable to the government. Then entertainment taxes. These are collected from prostitutes and gambling. Then different terms used for different taxes in Mauryan period. First is a custom duty. It is called a sulka, which consisted of import duty, export duty, gate tolls, and octroi. Next is a transaction tax. It is called as a vazi, which included manavazi, transaction tax for crown goods. Then share of production, it is called as a bhaga, which included 1/6 share called a shadabhaga. Tax in cash called a kara. Taxes in kind is called a pratikara, which included labor. It is also called as a vishti. For military, ayudhya, countervailing duties, vaidharna. Then road sales is called as a vartani. Monopoly tax is called a pariha. Royalty is a prakriya. Taxes paid in kind by villages, pindakaram. Then army maintenance tax, it is known as a Sena Bhaktam. and surcharges, it is called as a paraswam. Then next, we will move towards collection of taxes. In Mauryan period, tax collection was organized by a special department that monitored tax revenue to the treasury. In Kautilya, means Mauryan Empire, the Collector General, that is the Chief of Revenue, was to consolidate the revenue from all departments into the central treasury. An institutional mechanism for revenue collection was set up, whereby the actual collection was decentralized while the consolidation and audit was centralized. The officers called a Samaharta and Sanidatta were in charge of tax collection during the Mauryan Empire. Now we will move towards the use of tax revenue, which is collected in Mauryan Empire. In Mauryan Empire, the tax revenue were recommended to be spent as follows. First, 1/6 to be stored in the state treasury, since it was believed that wealth was the basis of power. Then half for the army, 1/12 for the personal needs of the king, for example, salaries to officials, charity and religious donations. The remaining part apparently went to fulfill the king's numerous obligations. They included expenses for arms, benevolence, maintenance of prisons, embassies, treasuries, the arsenal, trading establishment, facilities for raw materials, and handicapped workshops. The treasury paid for forced labor, cattle pains, and nature reserves of tame and wild animals, birds, predators, fuel, and grass. Now we will move towards the tax relief and exemptions. In the Mauryan Empire, many groups were exempted from tax. For example, handicaps. Due to their inability, they are not able to pay the tax, so they are exempted from the tax. Then some persons who provide service or they are engaged in some kind of service. For example, priest, they are exempted from the tax. Then land tax and tax on traders were collected only if there was profit above the normal level. Now we will move towards next point, that is impact of taxation on trade in Mauryan Empire period. The trading activities were strictly regulated. Profit margins and the amount of tax on trading operations were stipulated. The government was supposed to not only monitor trade but also set fair prices, taking into account real cost and seasonal fluctuations. Profit above the set amount were allowed but were subject to additional tax. Merchants paid a special tax known as vazi to the treasury in the amount of 1/16 for the goods sold by measure, 1/20 for goods sold by weight, and 1/11 for goods sold by count. In addition, there was a trade duty, the sulka. It is called a sulka, in the amount of 1/6 of the cost, but it could vary for some goods. For example, people paid a duty of 50% when selling elephants and horses, 40% for medicines, 30% for grains, 20% for glass, and 10% for handicrafts, and 5% for firewood. This duty was paid at the custom house outside the city. At the gate, another additional duty was paid in the amount of 1/20 of the sulka. The custom house levied a duty on imported goods at 1/5 of their cost, but could reduce it to 1/10 or even 1/20 for essential products. The duty on exported goods was 1/10 of the cost. Lower duties were imposed on some imported goods. For example, 1/6 from the cost of flowers and fruits, 1/10 or 1/15 from fabrics, 1/20 or 1/25 from grain and sugar, and 20% of collected duties went to the collector. Thank you.